Helldivers 2 is a special game. That much we can all agree on. It's a title that has exploded into the mainstream gaming sphere after a seemingly quiet release on February 8th of 2024, launching its developer, Arrowhead Studios, into the forefront of gaming. Previously, Arrowhead had 4 games in the studio's catalog of games, which most released reviews ranging from average to slightly positive. Notably, the 2008 release of Magica, an action-adventure game, won Game of the Year at the Swedish Gaming Awards, and the 2015 release of Helldivers was nominated for Action Game of the Year and won Handheld Game of the Year at the 19th Annual DICE Awards. Now, this is all to say that, given the studio's past work, no one expected Helldivers 2 to be the success that it's become, and this much was evident by the struggles of the servers right after the game's release. Now, I could go on and on about the different player count peaks that Helldivers 2 has hit and speculate about player counts, but instead, let me give you a quick summary. 11 days after the game was released, the servers were struggling and ultimately failing to support the insane player count that was over 400,000 players. And keep in mind, this 400K only accounts for those playing on Steam, not the PlayStation players. One number that was given by Arrowhead CEO, Johan Pilestest, was that on February 16th, the PlayStation player count was 10 times the population of his hometown. He went on to reveal that he was born in the municipality of Sweden with a population of around 17,000, meaning that on that specific day, the PlayStation player count made up somewhere around 174,000 players. And combined with the PC player count from that day of 232,000, the player count was somewhere around 406,000. And I say all this to reinforce the fact that this game was attracting huge player counts right after it launched. And that's enough talk about player count. You probably get the point by now. This game has experienced and is currently experiencing unparalleled success. And as the title of this video says, I have a pretty wild idea as to how the success was achieved. Obviously, they made a solid game. It has an enjoyable gameplay loop with refreshing mechanics with the concept of stratagems, a serviceable setting and premise, defending Super Earth and spreading democracy. It also has beautiful graphics with multiple planets to keep the players engaged and to keep the environment fresh. And finally, it has a great sound design to make the players feel like they're really having an impact on the game. But this is what we expect of every game. To achieve this level of success, it makes sense to assume that Helldivers 2 has something different. And in my opinion, this different thing that Helldivers had and has were the terrible and maxed out servers. And these maxed out servers contributed heavily into creating a sense of FOMO. Now, I'll quickly break down this concept even though I'm sure you've heard about it before. FOMO is a fear of missing out. And from a psychological perspective, this feeling is usually followed by a compulsive behavior to reduce the feeling of missing out. For example, let's assume that it's late and you have class tomorrow. You need to get some sleep. But as you're getting ready for bed, you get a text from a friend telling you that a group of your friends are going to play some video games. You obviously know that you need sleep tomorrow, but you also have this fear of missing out on playing with your friends and whatever inside jokes and funny moments come from playing these games. So for that reason, you decide to play some video games with your friends instead of sleeping, to satiate this fear of missing out. So that's essentially FOMO, something that's normally unique to social situations. Now in the context of Helldivers 2, if you're like me, you saw this game blow up all over social media. You see the cool looking TikToks of calling in a 500 kilogram bomb on some bugs. You see the silly moments where someone accidentally crushes their teammate with a support weapon. The funny moments are essentially endless. So after seeing these clips, maybe you hear about a friend who stayed up late and waited for 2 hours to get into the game to finally play a little. They'll tell you all about the funny moments they had and about how you totally need to play this game. And that's how it starts. You were hooked into waiting however long just to get a chance to satiate your fear of missing out, your FOMO. On some level, you want to be able to engage in these conversations with your friends and even with the memes on social media. You want to be able to relate. And that's the second half to this experience, deciding when you're done. If you played Helldivers 2 anytime after its initial launch, maybe you can relate. Here's the scenario. You spend an hour waiting to get past the queue and finally, you're in. You manage to bypass the bugginess and you're able to play for hours with your friends and you're all having a great time. But you realize time has flown by and you need to get off and get ready for everything you need to do tomorrow. And that's where the second psychological experience comes in, the sunk cost fallacy. By definition, it's when a person is reluctant to give something up because they are so heavily invested in it. And that investment can sometimes be things like money or time. Now, while the Helldivers 2 scenario is waiting to get onto the servers and get past the server queue, let me provide you another example. You bought tickets to see your favorite sports team. You put down some solid money for some decent seats, and then very quickly your team starts to lose. And there's zero chance of a comeback. Now, despite the fact that you've already spent the money and there's no way to get your money back, you somehow justify staying because you paid good money for those seats. Now it's the same concept for Helldivers 2, and this is something that I personally fell victim to. After spending so much time in the queue, players feel the need to continue to play past the point of enjoyment in a way to justify the time they spent waiting to play the game. So hopefully now it's easy to see how the unstable servers were able to contribute to creating the scenarios where FOMO and the sunk cost fallacy could thrive. These two psychological phenomena worked almost in unison to keep players hooked on either trying to play the game or to play the game past the point of peak enjoyment. And when adding these two phenomena to an already enjoyable gameplay loop, it's cool to see how this could be one aspect contributing to the success of Helldivers 2. And I guess real quick before this video wraps up, thank you for watching. Thank you for commenting on all my past stuff. Even if you don't do it now, it's just to get this kind of feedback as a nobody essentially is dope. So thank you all.